completely antithetical to people who are to mothers. It's like, well, my child, you know, that's completely or whatever. To me, I need to know that they're okay. That is you losing your power. And when you've lost your power, you feel helpless. And you are subject to the forces outside of you. So it's important to retain your power. So, and I'm kind of delving into one of my last points, but it's important for you to remember all you can control is this part that God gave you. And every time you get frustrated about the relationship, whether it's as a mother or a spouse or a friend or whatever, a coworker, chances are your frustration is because something outside of that is not going the way you want it to go. Unless you're not doing what God has given you to do. So I gave this talk to a group of pastors' wives once, and I talked about your job is just to be the wife, right? What is God telling you to do? And if you do that, can you make your husband do right? No. But you know, at the end of the day, I did what I was supposed to do. I did what my role was.
Yes.
And if you stay there, then you've retained your power. You've not done something to harm another person, right? But you don't put your power in. But if he doesn't make the bed up, and I laid all the stuff out, you know, I moved everything off, whatever your thing is, then you're not a success because he didn't do what he was supposed to do. You raised your child, you fed them, you washed their clothes, you did everything for them, and they still turned out to not be the person's character you thought they were going to be. Is that on you? No, it's not. And that's hard. It's not for moms to not own that the success of your child is not a direct reflection of you. And so that is not how God designed it. That's not how psychology works, because you're not able to make that decision. You're not able, even if they're two, those are the terrible twos, right? Developmentally, that is what the terrible twos is all about. Is they've learned you can't tell me what to do. Right? I can say no. Right? There's this thing called no. Right. And I can throw myself on the floor and cry because I don't want to. That is terrible too. And so, and what mom needs to go through the terrible twos too, which is I can't control you. Right. All I can do is set an environment of love, nurturing, provision, so that you have what you need to grow. Right. I started gardening, and depending on the seed, I can give certain seeds everything, and some take off and some don't. Is it my fault? Am I a bad gardener if some don't produce? No. The same is true with your seed. Same is true with our seed. That their success and progress is not always a direct reflection on you. That's relationship. So the fatigue that we're kind of building up to that happens in relationships. The ebb and flow is knowing that process. I'm gonna use another child example of the ebb and flow. After the terrible twos, you know, you kind of get those exploration years of the threes and the fours, right? My first degree is child development, by the way, so I use a lot. Okay, you know I'm passionate with child development. But and it's like the kids, you'll see them, they'll play and they'll run off, and then they'll look back. They just need to know you're somewhere nearby, right? And then if you get too far, they come back, right? And they cry, they look for you or whatever. They run, they play. It's that learning distance, right? They're learning that. But if you're the mom or the parent who doesn't let them experience the distance to come back and forth, right? That you can go, you're safe over there, keep looking back, I'm here. Right. I didn't move, I'm still here. And they can learn that, believe it or not, is teaching them that you don't have to be like this. Right. Yeah. When a parent can't let their child do that, you know, now I'm not talking about in the store, you know, at the mall. Right, today they walk off with your child, like, you know, or hurt them or drag them, you know. But in safe places, right? Yeah. That's actually teaching the nature of relationship. That you can come and go, that you have the ability to kind of move around and have space. Right. And we need that in relationships. Right. You may think, how's that scriptural? You know, Dr. Joseph, Well, what did Jesus do? Did he not steal away?
Yes.
Did he not get some time away from me?
Oh, yes.
Did he not?
Yes.
But when it was time to be around the folk, he was with the folks.
Yes.
Right.
He was up in there. So we're not doing anything that Jesus didn't do. To say, even in those close relationships, he was with his 12 best buddies all the time, and all the extra folk who were there too, because it wasn't just the 12, right? He didn't just stay with them all the time. He stole away. There was this ebb and flow. It's time for solitude, time for independence. So all relationships require that. So I ask you to take inventory of your own self. One, am I managing the come and go, the ebb and flow in my relationships? And then two, in that process, am I maintaining my power? Right? It's a power remaining with me. So consider whatever relationship frustrates you, angers you right now, is something, one you want to improve. Because right, this is the people puzzle. How do we all fit together? How can I improve that? Does that relationship need improving? Okay, so then what about me needs improving for that relationship?
Exactly.
And then that's where you focus. Right? Okay. Sister Mimi, is the internet working for you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We have 7 people online.
All right. I don't know what's going on there, but I'm going to just keep going. All right. So my second point is about the persistent fatigue. Persistent fatigue. In psychology, we call this allostatic load. There's actually a term other than persistent fatigue. Allostatic. It's on the back. It's on your sheet. That's one of the terms. That's the first terminology word. Although you can't see all of it, it's allostatic. A-L-L.
Okay. A-L.
A-L. Oh, okay. I think it must have sat on yours. There was. I'll give you another one.
Yeah.
I have plenty, and they misprinted, so there's a plenty of them. But allostatic load. You're missing the A. That's all you're missing.
That's all you
Allostatic load. And it's allostatic load refers to the cumulative burden of chronic stress and life events. It's the wear and tear on the body. So we learned this. This actually was developed back in '93. This person who came up with the term allostatic load, but we really saw it when coronavirus came.
You're right about it.
And how the body retains memory of stress. The body.
Wow.
There's a book, it's a real popular book, it's called The Body Keeps the Score. Don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Just heard about that.
Yes. The body actually holds memory. And so it knows. And for us, I do a lot of presentations, okay. So I did a presentation on the Black church and mental health for our Texas Psychology Association last year. And I talked about, if we as psychologists believe that the body holds the score, we know this is generationally as well. The things we do in church now come from what we did during slavery.
You're right.
That's how we got through. And it's not just environmental remembering. It is in ourselves, in our DNA. Right? We couldn't do a lot, but we knew we were out there moving, right, and singing. Right? And we had to move. That was the only way our bodies could get that energy out, right? That we could not express. Because you couldn't go out and cry and holler and yell at the master, and and you couldn't do all that, but you could move. You could get it out with your body. And so that's what they had to do, right? And so we have that built in our bodies. Remember that it gets passed down in our DNA. It's like it's just there. Somehow we know we need to move in order to relieve it. And so allostatic load is, you've been going through all this stuff. It's the stress of the day. It's the stress of the work. It's the stress of whatever is stressing you out, right? Even if it's not stressing you out where you're like mental health, mental illness. I'm not saying that. It's just the constant wear and tear on us. And that depletes our energy. Loving requires energy. And you may think emotion requires, yes. Loving requires energy. Thinking requires energy. And when we are drained, when our bodies have become worn down, we have less energy to make good decisions. And we start moving into our basic mammalian biology. We start to act like animals that don't know how to think. we refer, and so there's a book called The Emotional Brain. So we actually have 2 systems in your head. I don't know if you know this. I never know what people already know. But there actually are 2 systems in your brain. to process emotion. One that's quick and dirty, that's just like any other mammal, right? And then there's the one that's a slow process where you think, you have a chance to think it through. That's when, as mature women, we should have learned that process of how to say, wait, hold up. You know, that example I give is when, let's say a teenage girl in high school, she sees her boyfriend down the hall and he's standing at the locker, leaning on the locker, talking to another girl, right? That first brain, I know he didn't. I know, and then, you know, you take off and you're going down there to hurt somebody and it's quick, fast, and dirty. You swing before you know, right? That's that brain. And then the other brain is, who is that? What does he do? Let me look. And as you walk and you stop and you breathe and you think, oh, that's his cousin. I didn't know that was her locker. You know, oh, okay. Right? You take a minute to process. But the first brain didn't do that. And when we are suffering under allostatic load, we work on innate, base, no thinking systems. And so the worst of us comes out when we are in that place. And so we have to manage our load.
Amen.
We have to always be aware of how much, where is our energy going? Because when our energy is pulled too far into managing the load, we are less effective in our relationships. We're short with people. And I'm not saying you can't be short with somebody because it's just a bad day. I'm just, you know what I'm saying. But we find it hard over time. And then that relationship becomes a drain as well. So allostatic load is that burden. And your ability to manage the energy needed to maintain your relationships is impacted by the effect of chronic stress in your life. And to better do that, and this is why I love last night. Was everybody there last night?
Yep.
Okay. This is in my notes. To better manage yourself in your relationships, begin to address the load you are carrying.
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay. Right? And so if you carry it for a little, I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna tie that in tomorrow. Like, you're carrying it for a little while.
Right.
You can carry it. The longer you hold it, the more weight.
Yes.
And how it drains every other part of you. Even though it's just your arm holding it, pretty soon that pain starts to move. Right? And the heaviness starts to move to the parts that didn't directly affected by it. So if you got it last night, then you get the idea that you got to put stuff in. Right? Even for your own mental health, for your relationships. So if you think about, again, go back to that relationship that is stressful for you, that's frustrating for you. How is the load that you're feeling in your own life impacting your ability to manage that relationship? What do you need to do, right? And something I've always said, you'll hear me say it every time I talk, is you've got to eat right. You have to, I'm gonna come back to eat in a second. You have to get plenty of sleep. Everybody should know this. If you're not getting effective sleep, you will not functioning well. You will not do any of this well. No relationship will go well. Sleep deprivation is torture. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It is literal torture. They keep people awake to torture them.
Right.
So if you're not sleeping, that is very bad. Our bodies are designed to sleep. We do not work unless we get sufficient sleep.
Right.
And the second or third is exercise. Some walking. These bodies were, not the boots were made for walking. These bodies were made for walking.
Yeah.
You got to get up and move.
Right.
In fact, the research shows one of the best things to handle allostatic load in other areas is to move. We become too sedentary.
Right.
And so get up and move, and then breathe. So everybody in here, I know you're breathing. And I know we got the mask on, some of us do and whatnot, but you got to learn how to take proper belly breaths. Take a good deep belly. Don't move the top, move the stomach. Like watch when your babies are breathing. The belly's moving. That's how you properly breathe. All right, so take a good deep belly breath. How'd that feel? It feels good. It does. I'm not joking. I know we in church, but I'm telling you, I literally had a client say, "Oh, that feels like almost that first puzzle." Marijuana, of a joint. She's like, "That's almost like that feeling you get when you just." I said, "Okay, I don't know that feeling, but I'm gonna take your word for it. Let me use it." She was like, "Because most of us are holding our breath. We're holding our breath all day,
Amen.
And if you want to feel better, breathe. I'm on my time. We're good. Okay. So start to practice breathing. And I give that to people that I talk to.
Yeah.
I want you to throughout the day just take good 3 to 5 good deep breaths, and think a healing thought. Right. You will be amazed
Mhm.
at how much better you feel, and how much of that load you can release by just breathing, and taking a few good deep breaths. I started out with nutrition. You got to eat healthy. Eat real food, not fake food.
Right.
Right about it.
And it's something everyone always says when I talk about it in a session is we're going to talk about bowel movements. Yes.
Right.
Because when your baby is sick, how do you know your child is sick? Who ain't right? And so we are the exact same. I know my dog is sick, but the food isn't right.
Right.
You know, and if someone hadn't gone in a while. And so if you're eating real food, healthy food, you should have consistent, fairly easy to go bowel movements. If you are not, I usually encourage either to take a supplement of fiber in the diet, or to increase the real food with vegetables, a lot of blood fish. Because if you're not moving through and getting real food, you're backed up. We are what we eat, which is why we tend to see more depression and anxiety and illnesses in food deserts. Food deserts are places that don't have grocery stores, right? Some of you may have heard of that already. And why we tend to see more mental illness, true mental illness, in places where people don't eat well. Why do we see more mental illness in the poor and minority communities? Because they don't have access to expensive fresh fruits and healthy food. Because it's expensive unless you grow it yourself, right? So if you're not, think about what you're eating. Did you eat real food this week? Not just one day, this week. Change your diet and see how you feel. If you really invest, figure out a way to eat a lot cleaner. Your poop will be better, your emotions will be better, and then you can start to feel more like yourself, right? And handle the stress of the day. So, so that is being able to carry the load. But the load you carry is also influenced by my last point, which is your expectations. So here's the theory that the Lord kind of helped me see about expectations. So on that little handout you have, you see a diagram, and it's a circle. And so the very center of the circle is your core. And that core I call your value. This is my value, purpose, outcome model, my VPO model. The core of you is who you are.
Yeah.
Right? God made you. Your identity in Christ, who you are. That has to be solid. Just like any other spherical thing, if the core really is not sound, it's going to collapse. Okay? So the core has to be good. Your value, your self-worth has to be strong, which is why we start with build up you.
Yes.
If we don't build you up, the rest of it is not going to work. Right? And so you build up you, God made you, you have value. And once you recognize your value, then you have a job. You have a purpose. And that's what you do. So the purpose is what you do. And that is what God gave to each of us, was purpose. He told man to do this, he gave him purpose. Did he tell him what was going to be the outcome? No. He told him, this is your purpose. This is what you do. And so that's where we're supposed to live. I go back to a mom. Your purpose is to be a mom, to raise a child, to provide, to nurture. Your purpose is not to produce a doctor. Your purpose is not to produce. Your purpose is not to produce a person who can follow in the family business.
Okay. Wow.
Not your purpose.
Come on.
That's not your purpose. Your purpose is to be a mother.
Right.
And to raise. What they do is not on you. Right? So purpose is where we're supposed to live.
Right.
But often we don't. Then we move into that last circle, which is wide open, and it's called the outcome circle, which are our expectations. It's outside of your purpose. So I prepared this workshop. I'm doing my purpose. The outcome, what you get from it, is not mine.
You're right.
Right? And so, but if I focus on, I gotta know that they're getting it.
Mhm.
I gotta know that I got likes, or I gotta know that people responded, or I have to know that people showed up to the event. I have
Right.
to know that the kid turned out a certain way. Then where am I putting my focus?
Mhm.
In an area that I have no control over. None. And so that's what you see there. You see little lines coming in, those words, which you probably can't read because they're so small. It says uncontrollable outside forces. I work so hard in my purpose. I'm an event planner. I plan an event and it rains.
Mhm.
And there couldn't be a plan B for inside for what it was. So then it doesn't happen. Am I a failure?
No.
No. But often do people feel like a failure?
Mhm.
Because if they're living in the expectations and the outcomes instead of in their purpose.
Right.
And then you'll see there's a circle that kind of loops back up. The problem with living in the outcome is that it often has a negative impact on the core. Instead of just saying, oh, my purpose didn't manifest what I thought it should manifest today, it's I didn't do something right. In some kind of way it seeps in, it hurts self-esteem, self-worth.
Right.
Maybe it's not what I'm called to do. Maybe I shouldn't be doing it. Maybe I'm not good enough. All those issues can get hurt. And someone challenged me once and said, what about successful people? Because I really hadn't thought about it. And I was like, well, Lord, what about it? It works. Think about it. You plan a bit in your purpose. Thousands of people show up.
Mhm.
How does that then impact your core?
Mhm.
I'm it. I got it. I don't need God. I don't need help. I don't need because I got. Those are our celebrities today, right?
Mhm.
Gifts are without repentance. They operate in their gift. They're
Mhm.
making money. They do it well, but they don't need God.
Mhm.
Right? They don't need to get back to their faith because most of them started out in church.
Right.
So it's the same thing. Whether the outcome is emptiness or the outcome is success. If you live there, I'm not saying that it was successful. If you live there,
Right.
it has a negative impact on your core.
It really does.
And so we have to say we plan for success. But I don't put my power, I don't put my worth, I don't put my importance in that place. Now I've taught you the theory, let me bring it to relationships. We're friends, right? My purpose is to be your friend.
Right.
If you don't listen to the advice I give, right, and you do something I don't like, or that I told you don't do, am I not a good friend? Right? Am I not a good spouse? Am I not a good parent? Right? If you bring it to relationship, what's my purpose in this relationship? Right? If you stay there and firmly do, despite, and I hear this a lot, but they don't. The tick for tat, but they don't.
Right, the tick for tat.
And I always say tick for tat doesn't work in relationship. That's not in God's design. There's no tick for tat. Right? It's you do what you're supposed to do.
Right.
What you believe is right. And that's it. You do that. And then what they do is on them. It's a whole lot harder to not do right if you just do right instead of waiting for them to do right. The waiting for them to do right is living in the expectation.
Exactly.
And that is leaving your power out there versus holding it where it needs to be close to secure your core and to secure you. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's that. And a piece to this that's not part of the theory, but it's the idea of surrender. I call it spiritual surrender. Being intentional about that surrender. So I'll read to you what I have here. It says, we are called to live in our purpose, but we often get out of order and get focused on outcomes and expectations instead of purpose. Spiritual surrender is accepting that God is in control of the outcome, and we are only to focus on our purpose. It is not giving up or an excuse for lack of planning or mistakes. It is walking fully in your purpose and not getting hung up on how it looks or turns out, but surrendering to God the outcome and our expectations. People don't want to surrender.
They don't.
And when I say it to people, how do I surrender? You know how to surrender. You let it go. How do I let it go? I can't tell you how to let go. You let it go. You just let go. The very thought that came to you that you said, no, I can't do that. do that. Because
Amen.
think about it. If somebody said, let it go, how do I do it? Oh, you just thought how to do it, but you didn't like it. So then you want me to tell you a different way. So you say, how? How am I supposed to do it? So you know how to do it.
Amen.
You just walk away, or you just say no, or you just don't say anything, or you whatever. Or you say something you said nicely, but you surrender. And so we have to be intentional about our surrender
Yes.
when it comes to relationships, when it comes to God, and the things like that.
Are you taking questions?
Yes, yes.
So I was gonna ask you, because I do a lot of, counseling as well. So, if a person, they know what to do, but the ability to do, they gotta believe that they can do it. But that was my idea. You gotta believe that you can do what you know that you need to do.
Mhm.
So would you say that's a good way of looking at it? Because I have to address that issue,
Yes.
with couples and people that may be in abusive situations or relationships.
Mhm.
They want to leave, but they don't, and they've been there so long. That's all they know. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That
Yes.
so they know they need to go, but they don't like have the ability
Yes.
to make that first step. So
And that is,
What do you think?
yes. And I'm going to say two things. One, that's why I started. I was saying I'm not talking about abuse. That's a whole separate process.
right.
In fact, my first job was at a women's center. So my first job at there. So my time has been domestic violence and sexual assault work in the very beginning.
Maybe not even abuse. Maybe just
But yes, I was going to say that's a little bit. I
I
can't
know that's
really
another
answer.
area there.
No, go ahead.
Okay. But when a person says, but I don't know how to, I was like, well, but at least now you know it, right? So you're aware. You don't know how. You know what you need to do. You don't know how. So let's then just process it. That's more of a therapy piece.
Yeah, it is.
Processing out. What is it about that you really don't know?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you? What does that feel like to you? If you did it, how would that feel?
Right. Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff. So, but yes.
I have a question. You was doing a teaching, and it had something to do with belief and behavior not lining up.
Mm-hmm.
And you had
Right.
a term for it.
Mm-hmm. It's cognitive dissonance. Right. Mm-hmm.
And how does that work in a relationship? I thought about that when she was asking the question.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if you've heard that term before. It's cognitive dissonance. And that is when what you believe does not line up with what you're doing. And so we are not designed, God didn't design us to not have those two things line up.
Right.
And so when they are out of alignment, it creates friction in our emotions and in our mind, all of it. We just don't feel it. It's just like, I don't know, I feel some kind of way. That'd be a perfect, right? The little slang term for today. You don't know what to call it because it just doesn't feel right. And so you have to fix one of them to alleviate that discomfort. And so, for example, if you were tying it into yours, if the person says, I don't know how to do that, because I don't know how to make my behavior line up, I'm just going to change my belief and start giving myself loopholes in order to continue to behave the way I'm behaving and not feel that disconnect, not feel that discomfort. Or do the hard work of maintaining the belief and then learning how to make their behavior line up to the belief. Right? And the easy one for that was my teenagers and young adults who would be like that. But God knows my heart. I want to have sex and I ain't married. He knows. He made me this way. He gave me the desire.
Right.
So they create a loophole.
Right. Exactly.
In their theology.
Exactly.
To allow for the behavior.
Exactly.
That's the easiest example I like to use for it. Oh wait, can you?
Yeah, can you just go over wax on, wax off? And then, another question is when you talk about expectation, I was looking at something that we talked about some people only able to give like a pint of love and other people have a gallon of love. And sometimes we're expecting someone to give us a bird based on our expectation of what we would give versus what they are, even their capacity to give themselves. So how would you deal with that too?
Well, I would agree that the expectation is the issue, right? And I don't know that I know what they mean by a pint and a gallon because love is love.
Right,
I think what they mean is the expression of love.
right.
And so that requires people to accept people for where they are and to love them, flaws and all. Whether their ability to do a lot of the love language talk that they like is a little, or it's a lot. But to acknowledge that they love me and they're doing a lot of what they can do and it's genuine. Or to accept that it's not.
Right.
And be honest about it, right? Again, the work becomes your own because the experience of love is yours. Right? The other person, we see it all the time. People think, I am showing you love. I really am. I'm giving you gallons of love. And you're like, it's a pint. But so it comes back to you, which is how am I experiencing this? What are my expectations? And then address that. Here's what I think I need. Here's, not what I want, what I need. And then and go from there. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I was wanted to give my testimony, if it's okay, about the abusive marriage.
Mm-hmm.
When I was abused, I didn't know how to leave, but God worked it out. I began to fast and pray because I was young in the Lord. And as I began to fast and pray, then God gave me the wisdom in how to get out of that marriage and how to leave. Because every time I tried to leave, they would pull me back in the house by my hair and they would try to, beat me again. And so, I had got up off my knees and I was praying to God and they started abuse. But then when I said, God, he said that he loved me, but this is not love. This is not the love. And so as I fasted and prayed, God gave me how to leave. He gave me a way to get up out of there. And as I was going to the car, he was coming toward me. And I ran into the next door neighbor house. And they pulled out their gun. And they said, you will not touch her. And she is going to leave. So that's
the Lord will
the
provide.
Lord, he will provide. You got to ram in the bush.
But that's why I think, I don't really talk about that
Yes.
because it's so individual and so
Yes,
specific.
it is. It just
So,
depends on.
But I made that disclaimer up front. It was like, I can't do the talk.
Right.
And
Yeah.
address.
Yeah, right.
And
Yeah,
address
I get
it. So,
Yeah.
but yes. So we are, yes, 4 minutes. Any other questions? That's the end of my notes. And so we talked about the puzzle of relationships, the people puzzle. I pray you got what you needed on today, that something was said that works for you to help you in your relationships, given the ebb and flow, the wax on and the wax off, the ebb and flow of what needs to happen. And so you just always kind of monitor, what am I doing? Am I practicing, wax, a little bit of wax on, a little bit of wax off, right? Or am I always wax on? And it's wearing people out. Or am I always wax off and people don't feel connected to me because I keep distance? I guess that would be the other piece to that too, is I'm never expending the energy to connect. Right? Are people not feeling connected because I'm never doing both? And not you can just do one, right?
Yeah.
It's the dance is both, right? So to do that, to manage your load, to keep your power, focus where you're keeping your power, to release the load, right? And then to manage your expectations in your relationships and stay in your purpose. Focus back. When you get frustrated, has my mind and my energy gone outside of my purpose? Is that mine?
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of peace that will come
Yes,
when you release that.
Yes.
And so, amen.
I really like the part of keeping your power. Because a lot of time in relationships, sometimes you can give other people your power. Basically.
Yeah.
And they begin to control. And that's where
That's what it is.
the insecurities or whatever comes in. So when you give up your power, knowing who you are,
Yes.
and that self-worth in place.